Do you ever feel like an album's just made for you? This album is for me. So Nico Paulo is a Portuguese singer-songwriter, and she has dropped her debut album here. I hadn't heard anything from her in the past. I don't know if there's been much music since this debut or before this debut, but I've been made aware of her through George on Twitter. So shout out to George for putting me on this, man. I think that was an exceptionally good recommendation, because this is easily one of my favorite albums of the year, man. Like, so far, this album is just so warm and lovely and does everything right in the genre that it is entering. You know, this is a folk album. It's a bit of a sophisticated pop album at times as well. I guess a close comparison could be that Weather Station album from a few years back. That was really quite good, but it might be even better than that one, honestly, because I think Nico as a singer is just breathtakingly stunning at times. I think this is a really, really gorgeous sounding album, just really well produced at times as well. Well, the whole way through, in fact, that's no question. But performance wise, it is a really, really lovely vocal performance from start to end from Nico Paulo, and it just hits the spot for me perfectly. Like, it is my kind of thing down to a T. Opening track is just this like luscious instrumental with the really lovely vocals that back it up as well. That just leads perfectly into time. Like, I think this track is really only there to kind of set up the tone of the album, really, and set up the song Time. I think she probably could have utilized more of these kind of setup moments on this album, because it's relatively short, so maybe if there were just more expanded instrumentals leading into each track, it might have been a nice added touch. Not that I think it needed it, but the fact that we get it on this one going into Time is just so eye-opening and breathtaking to listen to. And then you get the track Time, which quite easily is the best track and easily one of my favorite songs of the year, man. This is just an absolute gorgeous track here. Good God, I love her vocals on this track. The way the instrumental kind of builds into this really nice guitar rhythm, which sounds great. It's really catchy. It's got an almost danceable feel to it, actually, and it just feels like you're entering like a Spanish villa or something. It just sounds like the perfect soundtrack for that kind of thing. And then you've also got like the kind of springtime feel to it. She must have intentionally dropped this in April, because I think this feel to this album is just perfectly for this time of year. You know, you're starting to get those glimpses of sun, glimpses of nice weather, and you're kind of getting a glimpse of that on this track as well. It's soft, it's slow, but it kind of builds up into quite a nice wavy little pop tune that makes you feel like you're kind of by the beach, but there's a bit of a breeze. The Carole King delivery in her vocals is not unnoticed as well. You can clearly hear the influence from her on this album throughout and on this track, and even I'd go as far as saying as someone like a Wise Blood too. In fact, this track and many other tracks at times where she kind of reaches into those heavenly moments with her voice, I'm totally reminded of someone like a Wise Blood, which I think if you're a lover of Wise Blood, this album is going to be you down to a T. But if you were a bit of a skeptic of something like Titanic Rising, or maybe even her most recent one, which I think was a bit worse than Titanic Rising, to be honest, then I don't think this album is going to be for you. But if you get lost in that type of thing, which I do, with those kind of vocals, yeah, you're going to love this album. Amor, Amor, Amor is a track that is way more stripped back. I think tracks like this really utilize the vocal talent more so than anything else, although it does kind of transition to a quite nice upbeat rhythm as the song goes on, but you're really getting those stunning vocals that take over most of this track. It is really nice to listen to be honest. The master has a bit more of like a soft rock feel to it. The guitar on this track is a bit more, I guess, electric, and it reminds me totally of something else, but I cannot for the life of me pick out what it is, which is really annoying. I hate doing that in a review where like I'm trying to describe something and I usually have it locked down, but every now and then there'll be something that reminds me of something, and by the time I get to recording the review, I still haven't figured out what it is, and I still can't figure this one out, and it's really bugging me. And if I ever figure it out, I will probably put a comment in the description or somewhere on this video to remind you what I'm thinking of. By that point, nobody will care, but it will matter to me, and I need to figure it out. Once you get to a track like Learning My Ways, I really start to realise what it is about this album that has just got me locked in. And this track particularly is the one that does that, because it totally reminds me of something like Fleet Foxes. Now, not necessarily in how it sounds, although I do think the vocal harmonies at times are quite reminiscent of that. And of course, this is quite a folk album. Of course, you know, Fleet Foxes are literally like the blueprint of all modern folk music, really, from their first album. So many artists have tried doing what they did and haven't been able to do it. we know this, but yeah, this track particularly just has that like beauty to it that Fleet Foxes do, where you can just get lost in the atmosphere, the tone, the vocals, and you can just get sucked into it all so beautifully. And I think that's what this track does, and it totally reminds me of that. And then I'm reminded that, oh yeah, this whole album is kind of giving off a similar feel to what I would get from listening to Fleet Foxes. Lock Me Inside has this flourishing instrumental, which I really love as well, again reminding me of something like Fleet Foxes. And then at the 2-minute mark, where the drums come crashing in, good God, good God. Good God, what a moment that is. Oh. And before I close things out, I do really want to mention the track Hand Kisser, because what a lovely song this is. I mean, I haven't really touched on many of the lyrics on this album throughout. There are some actually, like, you know, moments where she's not actually singing in English, she's singing in Portuguese, which is quite a nice blend as well. You're getting some kind of mixes of that at times, which is lovely to hear. But yeah, Hand Kisser, man, I want to mention this one because the lyrics just really get me, man. It's just such a lovely track, like the way she's kind of talking about someone and she's just kind of pouring her love into that person and just picking out those little things that that person does. It's not the most extravagant thing. It's not like, you know, this person, I would die for you. I would jump in front of a bus for you. You know, those kind of like lyrical cliches you often hear in tracks, or walking through fire for somebody. She's not really doing that. She's kind of just picking out those specific little details, like the way that person like touches her face, or the way that person speaks or does little things, and it just kind of like celebrates it in such a beautiful way. And then it's just like, oh, I keep all of this in me, like all of this is not going to escape me. It's just a really nice track. It's such a warm, wholesome moment on the album that I'm just really taken aback by, because I just love lyrics like that, where you just kind of go more specifically into what makes that person so special, rather than just kind of saying generic things. And of course it sounds great too, so that really is a helpful thing. So yeah, what a great track that is. And just generally a great album, man. This is a really, really lovely album. An early release here in the year. That's going to be one that stays in rotation, just one at any time. Will put me in a nice mood, really nice vibe, a really nice ambient feel throughout. It's folk, it's, you know, of course, it's lovely with the guitars, it's lovely with the instrumentals, and her vocals are just absolutely to die for at times too. So it's not something you've never heard before, but it's doing the thing you've heard before at such a high level that you can't help but fall in love with it. And yeah, it's just an easy 8 out of 10 for me. Like, it's an easy album that is just so made for someone like me who just loves this kind of thing when it's done so well. Ooh, wires, eh? Wires. So that's it from me. I hope I sold this album well enough for you. I hope I laid down exactly what makes it great, and it makes you at least interested in trying it out if you haven't already. But that is it from me. I'm in a slightly different location. There might be a few videos here, but I'll be back to normal once next week kicks in. I'm just staying with some family for a minute. Hope you don't mind. Try something different as well with my earphones. Hopefully the audio sounds a bit better. We shall see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, thank you as always. Apologies for the lighting. I don't think it's doing my face very good justice at the moment. It's just a very kind of like spring evening, sun evening kind of feel that's just shining through the window and making me look very heavenly, actually, which is perfect for this album. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you check this album out. If you haven't already, do that, Dad. Do it. Then let me know what you think. If you have heard it, let me know what you think. Share the video with a friend. Thank you as always. Have a good day and goodbye.